Nikita, 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 that is Nikita. Nikita, Nikita, Nikita over there. Nikita, Nikita, that is Nikita. Nikita, 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 that is her. Hello, Nikita. So this is Nikita Sullivan over here. Thank you so much for joining me, game designer, bag decorator and seller, game color kit maker and assembler, and also um, happily, living other parts of your life that maybe it would not be my place to share. But it sounds like you are a fully rounded person. But Nikita, what would you like people to know about you before we carry on?
I like making games, making just about anything. Hi, Rob. Yeah. I don't know. What do people need to know about me, Baz? I've lost my brain.
I think the most important thing for people to know is firstly that there's a Kickstarter coming up, which is part of the reason why you agreed to do this, because you want to self-promote it. And let's not beat about the bush. Let me put a little link in there. And if you had 30 seconds, starting now, tell people about the game. Starting now.
So my game is Malus Fortis. It's about this beautiful garden that draws you in during the day, and then at night it turns evil and the flowers come and attack. And you play as nymphs who have asymmetrical powers. The paths you go down have asymmetrical as well. There's been a lot of balancing in the game for that reason. But it's good fun, and it's full of stories that happen within Malus Fortis.
And you've been working on this for a ridiculous amount of time. I say ridiculous. It's getting on quite a few years, right? And it sounds like you've been wanting to publish this. How long has it been since you started the concept? And let's just use this game before we proceed any further. I want to ask firstly, so is it cooperative or competitive?
It's cooperative.
And we are working together to overcome these evil flowers that have come alive.
Yes. So there's very little that you can do to fight the flowers. They are all-encompassing, and your magic is drained because the garden is taking over part of you, kind of. Where was I going with that?
That's your.
But yeah, you all work together, and once one of you's gotten off the board, out of the garden, you're kind of back up to full power, and you can use your powers to help everyone who's still in the garden. So one of my big pet peeves in game design is when somebody has to be out and done, and they've just got to sit and watch everyone else play the game. And actually, when you're done, you get more power, and it becomes a bit more cooperative, and you can talk a lot more about what you can do to help each other.
It sounds interesting, and I'm going to admit, like, I have not had a chance to play this myself. And even though, in theory, I'm sure that I could have at a previous convention, conventions tend to be such a busy time. It's just the reality of being someone there who's actually trying to trade. I feel like any minute that I'm not at my own stand, I'm kind of giving something up. And then there can be a lot of pressure as a publisher. We're kind of, oh my gosh, I need to be here, I need to be there, I need to sell this stuff, I need to send this stuff over here. It's a lot of work. Why do you do it, Nikita? Why do you do it?
Why do I do it? I've had to do a lot of introspection because you've asked this question. And I think the short answer would be because I'm a control freak, but we have time for a long answer.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it starts with the short answer, and then let's work towards a longer answer.
Yeah, I'll elaborate.
So, is that most of the reason? Like, is that basically 90% of it, that you just cannot give up the rights to your thing? Because I'm not going to badmouth people that I'm working with, but it's it's kind of not unknown for things to be translated, and then come back, and then you don't feel involved in the process, and then the words aren't exactly what you would like, and you think, why did they do this? If they had a reason, then that's fine. And I don't think I'm it's, the truth is, things come in by accident, and when it's someone else's accident or whatever, you can feel quite resentful as a designer. And when it's your own accident, you kind of feel, oh, that's disappointing, but you know what, I'll do better for the next print run.
I think there's a certain amount of, I'm only letting myself down if I'm only letting myself down if I can't stick to a deadline or I can't get everything done on time. But also, no one else is letting me down. No one else is messing with my game. There's a certain amount of that.
You are doing your own art, right?
Yes.
It's all 100%. Well, I say it's 100% to you. Nothing's 100% any single person, and I think anyone who claims that is going to end up making rubbish. Sorry to. Can we agree on that, or should we discuss that?
My games wouldn't be my games without playtesters and all the people who play it and help me make it better. But in terms of the running of Vatican games and the development of my games and the art, it's all me. But
I mean, I feel the same, and I've had so much support, like emotional support, people that I've vented to, and people that I've talked about what's going on in my life, because I don't work in an office where I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is coming, the terrible thing. So if I want to, but we do have that space. The part one that Ree is also part of, the Indie Publishers Network, which is a nice place that, even though I feel I am kind of exiting this year. So if I'm being honest, this is an interesting discussion because you're going gung-ho. How long has Malice Artist been under design, from like the first playtest to now? And how much have you been?
5 years.
So that's a while. And you've been working on it as your main focus, I feel like, based on what you've shared.
I think it's been my main focus at different times because there have been other products and other projects, and there's needed to be, because Vatican Games is my full-time business. If I just took the time off to work on all the artwork, I wouldn't be paid for 6 months. So I do have to do stuff. But at the moment, and for the last couple of months, it's been absolutely my full focus. But I think the time, because the art takes me a while, the game has gotten better, and it was supposed to originally launch.
Because you are able to keep playtesting it, you're able to keep developing it, right? And in my mind, it's like, okay, you've got the design of it, where you're working on it, you're shaping it, you're working out what the heck you're making, and then you get to the development where you make it the best version of itself that it can be. And sometimes you hand off that thing to someone else. And there is an argument that if you're just developing your own designs, it's not really development. And semantics aside, I think I can understand the benefits of having outside pairs of eyes, but as long as you keep getting playtesters, as long as you're actually listening to them, as long as you're open to those ideas, I think you can continue to improve something, especially if you take a break and come back, which you have been doing over those 5 years. And it must be such a massive feeling of relief that you finally got it all in place, right? Like, is it basically set that you are ready to, because this Kickstarter is not the end. This Kickstarter is like it's a milestone. You need to get the backers, but then it's not the end of the publishing work.
No, absolutely not. It's the start of it all, to be honest. It's the start of the harder work.
Exactly. It's like the start of all the misery. It's the start of all the administration, of all the getting the boxes and like checking the files and making sure the factory doesn't mess up and overcoming, oh my gosh, blimmin' tariffs. And how the heck are you going to even manage that malarkey?
So I would say I don't find the organisation of publishing it as hard a job as some people, in that I am nerdily organised, like to a very nerdy level. And like when you were talking about how you have playtesters and you are still developing the game so long as you're listening to people, to me that's a very software, that comes from like my software background as well, where I'm basically, people are raising defects and I'm telling them whether that's by design or an actual defect that I will fix or improve upon. So my brain's already set to that. I've always done that. And now I do it with games, which is a much more enjoyable way of doing it. So I don't really mind all of it. I just see the admin of doing the production is just my day-to-day job as Atkin Games. And then occasionally I get to go out and actually play the game and improve it and make it better and everything else.
But it does sound like, even for you, even though you're a blooming nerd and you're kind of, doing all this management stuff, project management is blooming hard work. And I say this as someone who last year kind of regrets, do I regret it? I did it. Making a game about sequencing screenshots of an old animation. And this was a tricky bit with 50 bits of writing by 50 writers. And getting everyone to submit the things on time and assemble that was a lot of work. And like, when it comes time for me to actually print stuff, I just go the easiest possible route. That I used to do like things literally just in bags, but then I realized that now, as long as I print 1,000 at a time with Rob, I can do different games, but it's actually just as cheap for me to print the tuck box. Like, the tuck box is kind of, it's a couple of pennies, whereas obviously a nice 2-piece box, that's a lot more. You know this stuff. I'm talking to the audience, not to you, Nikita, just for clarity. But Nikita, you're actually pulling out all the stops to try and make this a nice fancy production, something that you're a bit more proud of, like something that's not just the first edition, and then we'll try to make something like this is Malus Hortus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more I worked on the game, and the more the more I worked on the game, and more I kind of developed the lore in my head of what goes on in Malus Hortus, the more there's kind of stories around it as well now. And I'd love to do more creative writing for it. And I've got one of the stretch goals to add more little stories into the game. But also, like, there's an RPG book I'd like to write. There's an origin story of Malus Hortus that I'd really like to write. So it's one of those projects that if people like it enough, there's a lot I could do with it. Just the lore behind it.
Because it sounds like, I mean, for me, games are very much mechanical. It's very much about what you're doing within the game. And I recently made games for a day-long workshop. There were 8 of us. It was like an open event. It was a free thing in a place. And it was literally a day, what did I call it? Playful Touch workshop. It was for, one of the games was like you had elbows and then you were kind of touching your elbows. It was all consensual touch, and then there was opportunity for people to kind of be like, no, I'm not comfortable. There was one place if you want to go, if you still want to be talked to, another place if you want to go just to be ignored, if you know what I mean, but you still want to be in the room, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And 2 people did have to use one of the couches in the last game, but they were like, oh, I'm still really enjoying being here. I checked in on them. And anyway, it's like, for me, I never feel, for whatever reason, I don't really resonate with the theme as much. I don't resonate with the story with the trappings with, okay, this is a plant versus a zombie. Okay, this is a plant that's come to life and is evil, as opposed to plants versus zombies, whereas the plants are the good guys. This is, okay, something based on coding that Nikita's made, or in my version, it's like, okay, just random pictures that you're matching together. I think there's clearly a difference in our styles, that I'm coming from a place of what can people be doing on the table in this room together, and you're coming to it from a place of what's the joyful artifact, what are all the trappings, what's the story here, and what can I evoke? And it does feel like you're more about the evocation of something. Is that fair to say?
I think it's just easier to talk about that and to start talking about that, because the theme and the artwork's the thing that when I've shown people in person, that's what they've gravitated towards. But there's hand management and resource management, and it's very cooperative and chatty about what you'll do and how you'll do it. And for me as well, a lot of people have asked me, is it mechanism or theme first? And almost all of my games, they've kind of come almost fully formed of this theme goes with this mechanic. And to me, 90% of what the game was that original idea 5 years ago. And although
so it sounds
the more
like
I play it, the more yeah.
So that first playtest, it was already 90% of the way towards what it is today. I mean, obviously art aside, and
in terms of game mechanics, yes, there's been
in
some
terms
additions
of the
and there's
turn
been
by turn blow.
But in terms of what you do on a turn, how you play the game, there's been some nice additions that have made it harder to win, which is what I wanted. And adding more conversation, more things to talk about. Should we use our magic to do this? Should we save it in case you die in the next round or something like that? One of my new favourite player quotes I heard at Paradise was someone saying to my husband, one of us is going to have to die during the game. But yeah, although it's developed a lot, and the story cards and the writing elements and the artwork has all developed a lot over the last 5 years, I couldn't tell you what came first out of theme or mechanics. It was a blended idea in my brain.
I mean, like, it is a false dichotomy, and I feel like, you do have all sorts of other ways of approaching a game. Like, you could have name first, like couple for the L deck. It was, oh, I've got Wibble, Phrasal, Grabble, alphabetical. Okay, what are some other names that could fit? Oh, what about couple? Well, it's clearly a word game because it's a deck for making word games with. Okay, it's clearly got to be for 2 players. Let me try to make a game that you could play while spooning. And I genuinely tried to do that. It didn't work out. In the end, it's not a game to play whilst spooning. It's a game to play whilst you're probably sitting side by side. But it still has a bit of that passing things and caring about what your partner's doing, which I quite like. And things can come from the name, from a single mechanic, from the flower, from like, oh, I've got that, and smush them together, which sounds like it's where you are, or an experience or a moment. Ree, it sounds like, has done a bunch of playtesting for this game. Says
Yeah,
they definitely really enjoyed the new narrative additions in our recent play. And let me ask about this whole control freak thing, because we are trying to ask why you publish games. So you talk about being a control freak. You do the art, you do the developing, you're doing all the writing, and if all the, like, you do all the product design, basically. So if you had to let go of something, what would you let go of?
Well, I have let go of something in this, in that it's the first game since my first game. It's the first game since my first game. There's been 4 in between. where I'm getting it manufactured by Longpack Games in China again, because over the course of making preview copies and various things like that, I realised I would probably have to charge double the price if I'm going to make a massive board game handcrafted by myself, and I just don't think there's really that big a market for that. And as I say, I feel like Malice Hortus has the most potential of my games to be bigger and better. So that is the first thing I've let go since that first game 5 years ago.
You've been literally assembling stuff, and that's an amazing thing to do. I think that Hammerbell Holland does the same with kind of, okay, cards are pre-printed, but all the bits, you just kind of put them into the boxes yourself. And then, you know, when I was self-fulfilling, you know, I was drawing on all my envelopes, and there was some real joy when people got them. And I assume that there's a similar joy when you're assembling the games, and it feels a bit more personal connection to you, from you to the backer.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had people come up to me at UK Games Expo and say, "Oh, but you don't want to fulfill everything yourself forever." And I'm like, no, I'd be really happy with that. Like, especially like doing games through Etsy and things like that. People write gift messages, and I know that they've bought Try to Win for their friend who's doing a triathlon in Germany next week. And it's adorable. And I love that. I want to be part of that. It makes me happy.
Yes, 100%. So that's such a lovely idea, to have custom messages in it or something from the designer. I should. No, I can't really do that. I don't live in the UK anymore. You know, it's all the sadness of, you know, emigration. But fortunately, you know, we already discussed this. I can get 5 dumplings for £1.
I'm so jealous.
They were nice dumplings, by the way, in case you're wondering, and I'm feeling very full.
Good. So you should be.
Thank you. Yes, I am enjoying Thai food, and over the next week and a bit, I'm spending more money. But back to the point. So, okay, you've got someone else assembling the stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the fulfillment side. So Longpack is sending it to
me, and I'm fulfilling.
Okay, so you are fulfilling all around the world. And how do you know that what are you doing with US tariffs? How are you making sure?
I knew you were going to ask. I've been staring at other people's answers all day. My thoughts at the moment are that I may have to use a US fulfillment company for the US side. Really likes dumplings too. The thing I'll be looking into next is whether I use US fulfillment, because if it's a flat rate of $50 per import, then I can't do that to backers, and I'll always try and do whatever's best for backers. If it's a case of I pay the additional percentage.
Are you going to have to work it out near the time? Like, when is it likely to actually be printed and then delivered? And like that method of shipment, like if it's being sent from China to America, like a bunch of them on a ship, that's going to take, I don't know, a month. And then, like, you know, things can change because, you know, they've been changing so quickly with this new, with fucking Trump. Sorry, I'm going to use the word.
I was waiting for it, yeah.
But, yeah, it is a shambles. I mean, I'm not saying the UK is perfect, and I love Bangkok. I'm not saying that's perfect either. Nowhere's perfect, but America does seem to be increasingly problematic in recent times. And there's no way of knowing what the tariff situation will be next week, let alone in a year or so's time, or when you are getting your things over. So that's the issue. Like, you can charge people for shipping closer to the time after the Kickstarter, but like then you've still got so much up in the air, and I cannot imagine going forward with something like, but I have a lot higher stress for logistical things like this than you do. I am more of an agent of chaos than control and organization.
Yeah. So for me, I'm putting together an FAQ to hopefully put people's minds at rest that I won't suddenly lump them with a massive bill. A lot of the advice I've seen is just collect their shipping closest at a time and cover it in the shipping. I'm not going to charge people $50 extra for shipping. I'm never doing that to anyone.
If that's what it is, that's what it is. But you have to, yes, do the best you can by them, but you can't end up out of pocket yourself.
No, that's true, which is why I think the best option for me mentally, I'll work out what I will do, and it will probably be using a US fulfillment company if those tariffs are still in place in a year's time. Or, well, I've set January 2026 as the fulfillment date for it, because there's a lot that happens in between now and then. But I'll work out now what I will do if this is the same case then, because that will make me feel better mentally that I know what's going to happen. Also, I want to be able to put people's minds at rest. My last campaign,
you need to do your due diligence, but you also need to let people know that you've done your due diligence, because that is part of being a publisher. It's not just about getting the stuff done, it's about that customer service, and the customer service is such a big part of it. I mean, they are luxury goods. Ultimately, we are trying to sell things that are allowing people to have a good time, and it's the promise of a good time. But can Malice Artist be played one player?
Yes.
Okay, but maybe they really want to play two player. I don't know. Maybe they really like to. Maybe they could play it one player, but maybe they don't like playing games one player. But it's like, okay, then you need to get people over. Do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is buying the game is not the key thing. Like if you buy a piece of, if I bought, it's like you've got to actually use the thing. Like I've got all these shelves, and until I actually organize them, I'm almost doing a disservice to my shelves. I mean, I've got, some organization over there and some vague gathering of themes. Okay, that shelf just has some empty bags and one counterfeit game, because my game's popular enough to be counterfeited in at least one time market, which there's no way to counter that. Anyway, and then I've got one shelf, one like Alex Cube for Thai literature, which is comics, Superman comics, and are for Thai. Anyway, the point is, the fundamental point is that you've got to actually show what the heck is going on.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
There's so much, and it's all about customer service, and how do you communicate that best to the people? Because a game is not worth buying until after you've bought it and then you have fun with it. It's only retroactively worth buying, and I guess that's true of everything. Would you agree?
Pretty much. But I mean, some people just like having a big board games collection. I've known loads of people who still have, they don't even call their shelf of shame their shelf of shame. They're glad they own that. I'm not necessarily one of those people, but I have some indie games that I am glad I backed them and supported them, and I haven't had a chance to play yet. But I'm very happy that I have them and I supported those people who I care about. So, yeah.
I like the term pile of potential. I like that. That's quite cute. And it reminds us that these are things of potential activities. And I'm looking at my small, I didn't actually at any point deliberately do that, but it's all the board games that I did not make that I have here. It's a very small collection of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and then I've also got all my own things, which is about 4 times that number. Anyway, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, one of those, I've got it and I could keep it. I'm not a big fan. What's the point? Because these objects, like as a publisher, how does it make you feel? As a designer, how does it make you feel when people are like, you know what, I played this, I didn't gel with it, I'm going to pass it on? Was it a failure of the publisher or of the designer that the intrinsic promise of the game didn't manage to live up to its potential, because very quick, in truth, Kong, maybe it's just my struggle to understand the rules, but because, language barrier and stuff, but the rules are bilingual, they are Thai and English, but it's meant to be a party game. I couldn't quite, there wasn't quite enough frivolity in it for my tastes, anyway, it didn't jive with me. That's all I'm going to say it. And I don't want this to be, oh my gosh, Bez says it's a bad game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I didn't jive with it. So is that just to be taken? Like, how do you deal with that?
I think it's fine that not every game is built for every person. I don't publish any games that someone hasn't really enjoyed. And so long as someone's really enjoying it, I don't mind. So going back to the being a control freak thing, I'm a control freak about how I publish my games. And I think that's very much that there's a lot in my life I can't control. Therefore, my business, I want to have full control over. But I'm very relaxed with whether someone enjoys the game or not. I wouldn't even work on a piece of art.
People who buy it to enjoy it. And isn't the job of a publisher kind of to be like, okay, this is what the game's about, this is the kind of fun you'll be having, this is the kind of experience you'll be having, and if you like that experience, you will like this game. I mean, at its worst, marketing is manipulation, but at its best, marketing is just telling people what the thing is so that people can connect with it. And lovely to have you, much love, and feel free to come back and listen to the rest of it, not live, if you know what I mean. But Rhea's also a lovely person.
Rhea's amazing.
But
yeah, I bought games that I thought I'd enjoy based on the description, and they don't not fulfill this description. It's just that I didn't like that game very much. And it's very hard to write a description that only targets the person who's going to enjoy it. I mean,
that's kind of a dream, I guess. Maybe it's a quixotic dream that can never be fulfilled, like running at windmills, trying to defeat this demon of misunderstanding, when misunderstanding is just inevitable. And you're always going to have some people thinking that something's for them when it's not. And it does feel like you want to decrease that as much as you can, presumably.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to buy the game that's not going to enjoy the game. This is why it's very difficult for me that, like, sometimes someone will say, oh, I want that thing you've got, but I'm going to wait till payday. And for me, I think that's just the way some people talk. But for me, I'm like, no, don't. If you don't have the money for it, don't buy it, kind of thing. Like, I don't ever want anyone to put themselves out for a thing. But I know people that that's just how they mean I want that thing.
But also some people are just, okay, on payday, I'm going to spend all my money and have a lot more luxury, and then I'll just kind of leave enough aside for the bare essentials for the rest of the month. Some people operate that way. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have times when I spend more.
Yeah, I think, but then I don't spend a lot of money on myself, to be honest. Most of the money I spend is on Attican games. But yeah, I think just because that's not the way my brain works, my first initial thought is, oh no, please don't buy the game if you can't afford it. But that is just how some people operate with their money, is that payday happens, you buy all the things you want. But yeah, like, so going back to Kickstarter, I wouldn't want someone to back it if they don't want the game. But again, marketing is you have to tell enough people that you find the right people who do want the game. So.
I mean, it's absolutely, there is like I said, like, as its worst, marketing is manipulative, and you don't want to do that, obviously. And you want to connect people, but you don't want to put people out, and you do want to get money from people because you need to survive, but you still want to be a nice person. And I feel like you and I and Sophie, who I talked with the other day, it's like we have this same kind of inner turmoil that if we could just give everyone the thing for free because we just want to do that and for to be like a source of joy and to make, but we can't in this world we live in. And Rob goes back to misunderstandings, that it's really hard to pitch a game while limiting misunderstandings. It's really natural to big the game up and try to sound like it's great for everyone, and clearly that can't be the case. And I do think that if anyone is promoting a game trying to say it's for everyone, that to me is a red flag. And to me, that is really dishonest.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of that, and I'm not very good at bigging myself up in my games anyway, so I just describe the game. And if someone likes the sound of it, they go for it, and I don't say, oh, it's an awesome game. I do, when I talk about to my friends, I'll tell them it's my favourite game, I really love it. But I don't, if somebody comes to my stand, like Games Expo or Paradise or whatever, I just tell them what the game is. I just describe it. And if they like the sound of it, they go for it. And if they don't, they don't.
I mean, it's that skill of having a game that you can describe in a couple of sentences. And I mean, my game titles kind of do that for me. Like a game about quickly matching words to pictures, but never words to words or pictures to pictures. So, you know, that's, I kind of don't even bother telling the game title if I'm bringing someone out and I say, do you like quick party games? Do you like matching or do you like talking? Okay, let's go for a quick matching one and then see what they're all about, because I'm at the point where I do have a variety of things. I don't have a game for everyone. If you're coming to my stand looking for a 5-hour thematic game or something that's historically relevant, I mean, historically relevant and historically accurate are two different things. I guess everything's historically relevant in some capacity, but that aside, like, you can't come to my stand expecting some historical war games. They're going to be disappointed. Move on, move on. It's a waste of both our time. And we need to be able to do what you're saying, which is just saying, hey, this is my game. If you like this kind of game, then sit down and give it a go. If you don't like this kind of game, then I'm sure you're a lovely person. Maybe you'd like one of the other games, but, you know, maybe it's just not for you. And it's not worth your time, because only by finding people who love your thing can that then continue to grow, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree entirely. But yeah, I tend to let people see what they like. And I think I've matched the art styles pretty well for my games. Like everyone who's drawn in by a certain artwork for it then seems to like the gameplay that goes with that. So I quite like that matching the art styles, because I've got
suggesting that like the cuteness of like, hey, here's some dogs, here's some cats, with the way you've drawn them is going to tie in with kind of cutesy, simpler mechanics, something that's a bit more, okay, here's some weird computer bitsy, what was that called? You know, your computery game?
Mini Memory Mischief.
Yes, that's the one, thank you. Like a kind of, and like Malum Hortz is what? It's meant to be oppressive and slightly threatening and a bit more serious,
there's a certain amount of peril in it. I think there's about a 50-50 win rate on it, which is what I wanted. And there's my favourite parts are where there's these tense moments where you've got flowers all around you and you know they're all going to move again at night. And you're trying to work out how you can possibly get out. And everyone's really tense about how this is going to work. And sometimes you might not make it and sometimes you do. And I like that. I like hearing the chats of people talking about it as it happens. Yeah. One of us is going to have to die.
I imagine I've never actually done a playtest for a fully cooperative game, I don't think. No, that's a lie, I have. I've done playtests for a couple, of course I have. And also some of my solo LDEC games, I got two people to play a one-player game as a couple, if you know what I mean, just so that they would chat to each other. But it's been many years. I mean, I'm talking like at least 5 years ago for me. I don't know why I stopped. Yeah, anyway, it's it feels like when you have people all cooperating and all chatting, and you're just kind of on the outside listening in as a publisher, as a designer, as a developer, that is so invigorating. That's one of my favorite things. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And with a competitive game, everyone's trying to keep the inner monologue inside.
Hey, Slivers.
Yeah, whereas with cooperative, you're all talking about what you want to do in the game, and the enjoyment, if they're enjoying it, comes out in that chat, which you don't get that in competitive games quite so much.
Yes, exactly. Like you brought up that dichotomy between, as a player in a competitive game, I want to keep all my stuff secret, but it's kind of fun both for the social dynamic, and sometimes I will reveal a bit of my strategy just for the sake of, okay, we're all learning this game, or hey, at least it's something we can talk about. And but it feels like with you can overcome that as a playtester. Like on the Friday daytime playtests, I would expect most of the people there to be able to verbalize what's going through their head during their play. But it is an unnatural thing. We have a barrier to that as players. Whereas, as you say, the fact that it coincides with what we want to do as players and what we want to happen as designers, that's beautiful. And that's really super lovely. And then getting that feedback when people are playing is a wonderful thing. And for me, feedback is kind of the reason that I make this. I mean, it's nice to imagine that my games are being enjoyed. I mean, I think there's like been 3 comments on the new version of Yogi on BGG, and I've heard 2 bits of feedback from people I personally know, and it's like I don't know how many tens of thousands have been sold, but like it's just not a game where I feel so removed from it. It's a weird emotional feeling. And as a publisher, even with my self-published things, it can go to the person. And then there was one person who sent me a long essay of how much they enjoyed their first game of a game about selecting 7 cards speedily, searching for synergies. And that was so heartwarming that they said, oh, we played it. It didn't quite click, but everyone gave it another go and they were so joyful and this and that. And oh, and by the way, one person mentioned that you've got this game. Is that true? Does it exist? Can I buy it? And then obviously that's amazing. That's an amazing ego boost. But how do you, as a publisher, do you continue to crave that sort of feedback? And if so, how do you get more of it?
I don't think I crave it. And it normally comes unexpected, but it fully brightens my day. And I will screenshot it, and I have a folder, a happy folder for when I'm not happy, to go look at those things and be like, it's all right. It's all right, actually. But yeah, I don't really look for it. Like I say, I wouldn't start on the art for a game unless I've played it with someone who thoroughly enjoyed it. And coming back to the feedback thing, I really love constructive feedback and I love making a game better. So almost if I have a first or second playtest and no one finds anything wrong, I'm like, you're not paying enough attention. There's probably something wrong. This is the software developer again. If there aren't any defects, you're not looking hard enough. And in the end with Malus Hortus, it was a few things that were playing on my mind that eventually when someone else said something about it, I suddenly had the click of, this is how I'll improve it. And all they said was just, I just don't know why we're doing that so much or whatever. And it just made me go,
like making your motivations more obvious and streamlining things for the players a bit.
Yeah, so I had this, the idea is that you can kind of call on any flower. Within the story card, there's a reference to a flower, and you roll a dice to find out which flower it is. And I did have it that you had different boards depending on number of players, because you'd have different amounts of flowers in play. But I wanted to make it harder to win as well. So now, you know, I've gotten rid of those boards. You don't have to set up those boards. There just is the 8 flowers in the game. You roll a d8, and if you happen to roll a flower that isn't on a path with a nymph, it moves to a path with a nymph. So you can end up with 3, 4, or even 5 flowers on your path, making it more perilous and more difficult to win. And that's what I wanted. And it's less for the player to do. You had to set up these boards with the flowers of the paths you've chosen. And now it's just already there. It's a flower reference on the board. Less for the gamers to do and more perilous, which ticks my box.
I mean, it sounds like having this sense of completion, having this sense of finality to the project is a massive thing for you. And you look like you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I think of all my other games, I mean, this was supposed to launch in October 2023, and I got COVID really badly at the same time that I was given steroids for the first time for a medical complaint. And I was really ill and I had to cancel it, and cancelling it was devastating, really, really devastating. And then there was lots of family things. We had to move house, which took a year. And now it's a better game than it was going to be then, because I have had time to make these improvements and to play test them thoroughly and everything. So that's my silver lining. But it does mean there's kind of a big load off my shoulders that it's finally going to launch tomorrow. And I got it to the point where I could be on my deathbed tomorrow. Obviously not on my deathbed because I wouldn't do it then, but I could be at my worst tomorrow and still just click that button and everything's ready. There's no, like, there's still this to do kind of thing. Thank you.
That is very nice. I mean, when you've got everything properly arranged and when everything's just so, that is a really satisfying feeling. And I really hope that there's no more nasty surprises over the months to come. I feel like we've probably had, I mean, without lingering too long within the political realm, I feel like things in America could get worse, but as is relevant to the board game industry, I think that we've already had the biggest warning signs for what things could happen. So at least things aren't going to get worse than threatened for the board game industry, but they might for general humanity. We will see. That's my general opinion.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about launching. So 50% of my last campaign, more than 50% of my last campaign were US backers. And my biggest concern is just people going, nope, not backing anything outside there's plenty of projects in the US. I don't need to back anything outside the US.
But
we'll see.
From outside the US are still being shipped into the US. Like they're still coming in from China or somewhere. I mean, it's not like, unless you're doing just playing cards, like the kinds of games that I tend to make, like if you actually want boards and nice box, like, you know, you can't get stuff made in the US. It's just not viable.
No.
But yes, shall we spend a couple of minutes going through my hypotheses? And I know you've said that it's all because you're a control freak, but let's see how many of these other things, like if they, on a scale of maybe, no, definitely not, yes, and definitely yes, if that makes sense. Okay, let me make you wider. Okay, so it's a 5-point scale. So is publishing games about a source of income?
Has to be now. It's my full-time job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't make games to make money, but I need a full-time job. I have a full-time job. And if they weren't making money, I'd have to go get a job elsewhere and make less games.
That's the reality. I mean, it is the thing that if we want to spend the bulk of our time doing something, unless we are wealthy through other means, you know, like some people who've got billionaire parents, I don't know, but like, you know, or millionaire parents would also be fine. sorry.
I'd be all right with
Moving-
millionaire parents.
But in the world we live in, yes, it has to be a source of income. And it is kind of the question that keeps the source of motivation that keeps coming up. Because everything else, it feels like it's about making other people happier, making ourselves happier, having this sense of completion, having this sense of, oh, we're managing to express ourselves creatively. But then money rears its ugly head, and we are always going to have finite resources, even if we had universal basic income for everyone and perfect healthcare, then we'd still need prices and money probably for stuff, like just to make sure people aren't just randomly mining all the things and
Yeah.
but yeah, but it would be so nice to be like, but even then, you have to do it at a point where you're not losing money. I mean, and if you're even doing it at a point where you're not losing, it's like, no, like I spent so many years, and if I'm being honest, for me, it's dispiriting because if you spend so many years working on stuff and then, like in my case, thinking, okay, after in a bind, like, okay, I made some money with the LDEX, but then the price at conventions, maybe I'm not a great business person, but everything, it just doesn't. I worked probably more than a full-time job, I feel, for not since I came to Bangkok. I've just been shirking off and living the high life in multiple ways. But like, it's a frustration. And even though I've been able to thankfully live off the royalties for Yogi, which is amazing, it is, yeah, it is a problem. It is an issue. And I mean, but then again, if it's not just about the money of me not having the money to live in the UK, it's also about the money as a source of validation. And I don't know if you suffer from this, that sometimes if you're not earning directly from something, you kind of feel a bit of doubt in yourself.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
But getting back to happier discussions, is it about allowing the game a chance to spread, letting people buy it, hopefully play it, letting it spread and spread, like being the start of beyond your playtesters almost around the world?
Yeah, I love that my games are in so many countries now, and I love that I'll occasionally. This is what I mean by I'm never seeking validation specifically, but whenever it comes, it's this amazing rush of somebody I don't know, when I didn't know that they were doing a thing, was enjoying my game, and that could be happening at any time. It's beautiful.
I love that idea of not seeking it, but being open to it. Like, it sounds incredibly healthy because I find myself, yes, craving it and feeling the need for it. And if I don't get it, then, but like, it sounds like for you, you have your repository of, some amounts of happiness and your little digital files of things to make you happier. And
I think everyone should do it, and it doesn't need to be feedback. I think if someone you've not spoken to for a while says happy birthday in a nice way on your Facebook wall, screenshot it and put it in that folder. Like, it's very, very healthy, I think. Well, I think it's very normal as a human that we get in these positions where we aren't happy sometimes, and the happy repository helps. You go look there and you go, oh, okay, I remember why I was happy yesterday now. And it's normal to sometimes just be sad. And sometimes we have to pull ourselves out of that, and that's what the happy repository's for.
I love it, and I do think that photos can be a big part of that. Photos of happy moments, and it is unfortunate that on Friday I was out with a friend at the market, and then afterwards I was, oh my gosh, I had such a good time with them. I totally forgot to take any photos, and then like I didn't take photos of the food, I didn't take selfies of us, and it's not about proving to the world that I've got a friend, that I've got to had a good time. It's about, looking back and being like, oh, that was a lovely time with Frankie. And then same thing yesterday, I went out with Betsy and like we went to restaurants, and yes, the food was part of it, she was part of it. But like whichever one I photoed, it's like just another memory that I'm remembering now, but will I remember in 10 years? Maybe if I had a photo, it would be easier to dredge up those happy repositories. And I love that we're getting these little life tips. And hello, Marceline. It is lovely to see you, another
Hello.
lovely designer. And I hope you are well today. So talking about it, yeah, a sense of completion. Would you give that a double thumbs up or just one?
Absolutely. I think a lot of it is that I need an artistic outlet anyway. And I've always needed that, and I've always made things. And then now I make things that people don't just like wear or carry their games about in. I make things that actually bring joy and bring people together. So I need the artistic outlet either way. And then the thing I've made with that actually brings more joy to other people down the line. I think that's beautiful.
Getting people to gather around the table. And it's like that idea that is music music until it is played? Like, is sheet music truly music? If it's just left in a book and no one even imagines it's in their mind, is a movie if it's not watched? Is a game if it's not played? And sure, it's still a game. I think that's the answer to the question, but it's kind of got a lot less value if no one never plays it. And I think we are humans, and so having other humans have an experience with our things has massive value. It's a way of connecting ourselves in some small way to them because our creation has touched them. That this thing, and I totally get what you mean. Like in a bind, I feel more emotional about it than Yogi. I think honestly, I consider Yogi a stronger game, all things considered, especially with the product design, especially with the more flexible water resistant cards. But in a bind, it's my art. And if someone resonates with that, it's kind of me. If someone resonates with the typography, that's me. Like all the text on the cards was handwritten word by word, and yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But it's more of a personal project. It feels more of my soul that I'm presenting to them. And I feel like we share that idea of being that control freak. I don't know if you resonate with what I've just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you said about that amazing feedback you got before with it, if you think about when you see bad reviews on Amazon or something like that, people are more likely to tell you if they don't like something than if they do.
100%.
So if you think that for everyone who tells you, takes the time to stop and tell you, I really enjoyed this, this was amazing, there must be at least dozens of other people feeling exactly the same way, but who aren't the kind of person who'd reach out to you.
You're right.
Per one person saying something nice, there are dozens, maybe hundreds, probably a lot more for you with your games. You've got a much further reach than me.
It's because of Gigamic. I mean, obviously, that's the thing that, yeah, there is a massive difference between something that I self-publish and nowadays I think I printed 150 or 200, it was 200 or less copies of a game about sequencing screenshots of an old animation with 50 bits of writing by 50 writers. Now, have they all gone? Not yet. It's a niche game. Even with my biggest successes, like with the L deck, I think it's it's less than 5,000. Like, it's a good number. That's like a once you're into the 4 digits, that's when I think you can start to get profitable as a publisher. I think that it's easy to get profitable that way in mass production. I think that if you are going to be smaller than that, it's going to be a boutique thing. It is going to be a smaller thing, as you say, like, but there's so much going on. There's so many calculations. How do I finance this? How do I do this? And it's a pain. And Marceline brings up negative reviews, that they can be super helpful for personal growth, but only if there's an actual critique. And I love this question, although I am wanting to wrap it up soon with the main topic of why we publish games. But yeah, let's get to this in just a few minutes and finish this list first, if that's okay, Nikita. So, is there intrinsic joy in Kickstarters or conventions for you? For me, there absolutely is.
There definitely is in conventions. Kickstarters, there is, but it's an emotional roller coaster, because even when you're doing really well, someone will cancel and it will be a little ding. But I'm never more happy than after a Kickstarter when I have a long list of orders to get through. It's like Christmas on Etsy, where just every day there's more orders to do, and that I just know what I'm doing for the next however long. That makes me happy.
Because you feel like you're kind of paying yourself to do this, and it's a sense of, oh, this person, I don't know if you get this as well. It's like, oh my gosh, I recognize this name from my previous Kickstarter. Oh,
I love that.
It's someone in Japan. Oh my gosh, I didn't know my game would be going to Japan. That's cool. Oh, this is going to another country. And there's a joy in that. There's a reminder that these people are actual blooming people. Because I don't know where... Do I know where anyone... Yeah, I know where I live. But I don't know where anyone else lives who owns Yogi, to be honest. But, I could, in theory, violate stuff and look up the addresses of people who've bought my stuff recently. And be like, oh my gosh, that's going to that place. And there is a joy in having that reality. And I feel like that comes to the end of the validation in feedback, which it's talked about just trying to take it when it comes, but in just sending it out, that it can be such an underappreciated part of it. And are you autistic as well? Like, because I'm wondering about enjoying that repetitive thing of fulfillment.
I don't think so, but I do enjoy that. So
fair enough. Well, yeah. And let's, before we finish up, get to Marceline's question, which is, what kind of criticism do you love to hear in your playtest? This can be our bonus question of the night, or whatever time it is, wherever you are watching. And do you have an answer to this? For me,
I do.
it's how can we make this game a little bit better for me without, for me as in the playtester, how can I make the game a better fit for this playtester without moving away from the central premise of the game? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. I think there are playtesters who will just try and pick fault in your game, and you have to have a very thick skin. And whenever someone does give me feedback I don't agree with, I will talk to a few other people who I know do love the game. And if they say to me, actually, that would make the game better, then all right. But if they also disagree and say, no, it wouldn't be the same game anymore, then I wouldn't want to make it something other people don't like. But the criticism I love to hear is like that thing I was saying where whenever someone sparks an idea in me, and usually they've not said, this should change to this exact thing, but they've just said, this doesn't quite work and I don't know why. And you can work with them to find out what would help. The other thing is I had someone come by and the temporary player boards I'd made, just like in Word, just to print out and have something to playtest with, had spelling mistakes because Word had auto-corrected the names of the nymphs to something else. And some beautiful person who knew a lot more Latin than me came along and said, do you know this is the pluralized of that and it shouldn't be? And do you know this? And I'm like, thank you so much for catching that before it went to production. Oh my God. And he was like, I'm sorry I'm being a pedant. And I'm like, no, please. People like you are the best people, because he gets it, understands it all, and goes, that's wrong though.
100%. I mean, feedback that can actually be applied and that can actually improve your thing is so useful. And honestly, if there's a typo that's going to make its way to the final game, and then, I'd hate to have feedback on my art when I've obviously just written some basic words or done a quick doodle directly on the card. That's not what... Like, when you've written something that could make its way to the final game, that's amazing. Also, hello, Anthony.
Yeah.
Tony Boydell, it is lovely to see you, who used to be part of Surprise Star Games and is now an independent designer, who says, my wife once suggested I get a map of the world and put pins into where we sold Surprise Star Games stuff to just enjoy the world's wide reach, which is a lovely idea. And
I did a map, all of the counties in England, and then a world map for Try to Win. And then after my next Kickstarters, I just couldn't bring myself to do it because it was so much admin to do it. But I have a little map. And unfortunately, I chose blue and red as the colours. And people, unfortunately, UK people were like, I thought this was an election map. Please never use these colours again. And I was like, I just picked
yeah.
But it was really nice looking at like a county level in the UK. And then for a little while, I got excited when someone from a county that wasn't on there bought the game.
That's funny. There is definitely that sense of ticking off the boxes. But I'm just thinking back to someone who said that they can be something dangerous about feeling like, oh, I'm just collecting people, or, oh, I need to get someone in this country now just for the sake of it. And you can forget about the individuals that way. The fact that there's let's not say 10th, because of course that's a round number. You're going to remember that if you are counting. But the fact that there's a 12th person or 13th person in Glasgow buying your game is just as amazing as the first person in Thailand buying your game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I did it for Try to Win. I think mostly because Try to Win barely funded. And it was a nice thing for me to be like, oh, but these like 100 to 200 games are actually this far across the world. That helped me a lot mentally. And yeah, I haven't looked at it again since then. So I've had another 4 games since then and haven't bothered. But it was a really nice thing for me to do at the time, to feel like, actually, this thing I've made is all over the world. That's amazing.
And Tony also shares another couple of things on feedback, just mentioning you're not obligated in any way to accept playtesters' feedback. Write it all down, says Tony. Yes, but cross out all the stuff you don't find useful, which is a funny thing. I mean, obviously, don't make that too obvious. But, I mean, what I tend to do is to actually write down stuff, and then I have little symbols on the side for, okay, definitely do this. Oh, this is a question mark because it's a problem and I need to solve it. This is an exclamation mark because I definitely want to do this. Also, never get into deep discussions or solutioneering in a playtest group, says Anthony, which I kind of, it's so contextual on the level of experience on the players that I'm going to acknowledge and respect your opinion, Tony, but I'm going to not agree with that in all situations. Sorry.
Yeah, can I partially agree? I agree if it's a playtest group of strangers. If it's a playtest group of the people you know who like your game and want to help make it better, like the first few people I always get to playtest are my husband, our best friend, and his partner, and then we'll have big open discussions. I'll be like, what if I did this? But I think in a playtest group of complete strangers who are just seeing your game for the first time, I wouldn't do a big open discussion.
Tony is becoming very reasonable in their old age. It's a fair point. Anyway, this has been a super lovely discussion, and we talked about Malus Hortus, and we talked about you being a control freak with your art, your writing, and how it doesn't need to fit the vibe of some other publisher. It fits your blimmin' vibe, and about the personal gratification that you get from having your own thing all be this universal whole where the art style matches the vibes of the game. We talked about it being a 5-year completion project, about the tariffs, about my personal shelves, about the promises that you give to backers and how you try to avoid misleading them. But yeah, I love what you said about don't say this is an awesome game if it's your own game, because of course you're going, I don't know, maybe there's a market out there for people saying their own game is the best party game of physical. I did actually say that. Mine was the best party game of physical constraints. And I would probably still stand by that, but I probably wouldn't advertise it. We talked about trying to get feedback, about validation, not seeking, but just enjoying it when it comes. Having a happy repository, whether it's digital files of clippings of things that people have said, or people telling you happy birthday. Maybe it can be a physical thing. Maybe it's a bunch of photos. We talked about our favorite feedback being things that can improve the game, but improve that game without turning it into another game, still keeping it the game that it wants to be. I would also say that for me, earlier on in a game's process, I'm very willing to playtest something to just get an idea of whether I should continue at all. And for me, that's also useful feedback. We talked about maps and a lovely, fun time of how it's enriched your mental health, your appreciation for your own game, that you feel validated. Like, hey, my game's going around places. But thank you for being here, Marceline and Tony, and everyone else who's still here. And is there anything else you'd like to say, Nikita? I will, of course, share the link to your Kickstarter once more. And thank you, Slivers, for being here.
I wanted to say thank you very much for streaming with me with Bez. It's been so long. And it's really lovely just to chat to you.
It's lovely to chat to you as well. And I do wish you all the best for your Kickstarter tomorrow. And I think that this is the end of this series that I've done. Next week is going to be Songkran, which is the Thai New Year. So technically that's on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but I'll be surprised if no one's doing water fights on Saturday, because that Saturday everyone's off. It's a big event. People are already wearing their fancy Songkran shirts. People are talking about getting special Songkran nails. People are, have their Songkran guns already. Water guns, for the record. We're not shooting each other with bullets. These are meant to be playful, pleasant soaks with water when the weather's getting up to 37, 40 degrees.
Yeah, I'd like a water
If you can
gunfight if it was that hot as well.
Sweat all over my face. But yes, it has been a lovely series to talk about motivations with you, Nikita, with Sophie, Zoe, and Chantal, about why we do the things we do. And I would love to come back to it at some point in the future to continue discussing just why we do the things we do, because I think that an unexplored life, it's not optimized in the way that kind of observed life can be, if you know what I mean. I feel like, we have to think, okay, are the things we're doing actually worth it to us? Life is so short. Let's not waste life on doing things that we don't care about. Let's not waste life being in situations we don't want to be in. We do have our own power. If you want to publish stuff, you go publish stuff. If you want to design stuff or make clothes or demo games, you go do the things you want to do. If you don't want to play games, don't play games. What life's too short to waste on stuff doing. And yeah, much love to everyone. And I guess that's what I kind of want to conclude this whole series by saying, at the risk of being too grandiose or whatever.
I like it. It's good.
Well, Nikita, unless you've got anything else left to say, I am going to tell everyone bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, bye bye. This is my song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone.